HydraTite is a simple mechanical solution to eliminate leaks in a pipeline. The basic installation only has 6 steps, but before we go over those, don't forget to like and subscribe. Step 1 is surface prep. The interior surface of the pipe needs to be smooth and uniform to allow HydraTite to seal properly. That means chipping away any buildup minerals, clearing out debris, and filling in indentations near the joint or point of repair. The goal is to make sure that the ribs of the rubber make constant contact with the interior surface of the pipe all the way around. Next, we get the rubber and lubricate the ribs and the channels where the steel bands will sit. Then we position the rubber so that the joint or point that we're repairing is behind the center of the seal. Make sure the ribs are in constant contact with the hose pipe all the way around. Make sure the rubber runs with the pipe and is not turned or distorted in any way. Work out the bumps like this. If you have trouble pressing down a large bump, work this bump into 2 smaller bumps. This will make the installation process easier and more successful. Now grab the retaining bands. Construct the steel bands using the bolts, but keep the bolts loose enough to allow for expansion and contraction of the bands. Now slide the retaining bands into their designated channels in the rubber. When positioning the expansion points, keep this in mind. Expanding in standing water is less than ideal, and holding the expander over your head gets tiresome. Keeping that in mind, generally avoid positioning the expansion points at the invert or crown of the pipe. Now grab a shim and bend it slightly. Work it behind the retaining band. You want to position it so that the middle of the shim is at the gap created by the expansion point. Ensure that every expansion point in both bands has a shim behind the steel band. For all but the last expansion point in each band, expand until the gap created can hold a 1-inch placeholder wedge. Do this at each expansion point until you reach the last expansion point in that band. For one-piece bands, you can skip the placeholder wedge. Now at the final expansion point, we need to bring the retaining bands up to pressure. The required pressure is determined by 3 things: the diameter of the hose pipe, the material of the hose pipe, and the type of steel the retaining bands are made of. Once you reach the pressure at this expansion point, we're going to seed the band. And that just means we're going to tap a few times around the band in a star-shaped pattern. Remember, only tap on the band. We're not going to tap on the expander head. As you tap, watch the pressure. It will likely dip. Maintain pressure, pumping it up to regain lost pressure. And when you find a spot that causes the pressure to go down, focus your attention on that spot. Tap around the location until the pressure stops dropping. Eventually the pressure should stabilize, and you will be able to tap around the entire band without the pressure dropping. And now, we will find a wedge that will fit snugly into the newly created gap in the retaining band. Turn the wedge so that the curve of the wedge matches the curve of the pipe, and the rounded corner of the wedge goes into the gap first. Remember, don't use a loose wedge. If one size is too small and the next size up is too big, increase the pressure slightly to accommodate the larger wedge. If the pressure is nearing the maximum suggested pressure, spend additional time seating the band to relieve some of the pressure. Now that this band is locked in place, repeat the process on the other band. Finally, tighten the bolts. And that's it! You've successfully completed the basic HydraTite installation.